I knew you knew I'd sneak something else out there. I'm getting real close to having read a hell of a lot of this. I'm like finding like there's not much left that's not orange or yellow here, which is good. But go to page 342. It's on the proper way to preach the doctrine.
要不要用那个笔电比较大本？如果有需要的话。
And this gosho is to Semibo. Who knows who Semibo was? Semibo. You should always, because there's some goshos written to Semibo, but you should know about Semibo. Every time you hear that name, Semibo. What was the significance of Semibo?
What period of time in Islam?
All the way up to the Asahara persecution, which would have happened after he came back from Sato. When he was up in Minobu. Asahara persecution. What was the Asahara persecution? What's the significance of the Asahara persecution?
Break the bone.
Huh?
Break his bone.
No.
Cut his
That's
head.
No, Asahara persecution was when the three brothers that were peasant farmers were willing to have their heads cut off rather than that.
There is a cut off the head.
And he did the Daigo Hanzan. It inspired him to inscribe the Daigo Hanzan. Okay. Samibo was a very learned priest that had been one of his like little stars. Okay, it was a Tendai priest. In other words, he understood the Tendai doctrine. He understood the direction of the Daishonin's doctrine. But he really got off on how much he knew.
Yes.
Okay?
He was too
arrogant. Okay.
Arrogant.
Well, again, his whole thing, the thing that the Daishonin is going to chastise him for now, is basically not understanding the Lotus Sutra of equality.
Yes.
Okay, to be enamored with those in the higher court, or to feel superior, or
so he was too vertical.
I'm going to read.
He should be horizontal.
He should be. Again, no, actually, he's not getting the point. Okay. This is the key. He's not getting the point. And when he didn't get the point, the Daishonin didn't kind of go, oh, it's okay. No. Okay, so we go to page 342.
342. Thank you very much.
And the Daishonin, the Daishonin is actually, up to this point in the Gosho, he's been telling him, this is the way you should present the doctrine. You shouldn't base it on Nimbutsu, chosen above all. So if you look here on page 342 in the second column, the second paragraph. Now, everything's preceded that has been him telling him why he's going about it the wrong way. So he starts here by saying, you should therefore cease arguing time and again about Nimbutsu chosen above all and proceed just as I've described. In other words, you should quit thinking that you've got such a great argument and listen to what I'm saying and say what I'm saying rather than saying what you think is so impressive about your knowledge. All right? He says, continuing on page 342, he says, in your letter, are we recording, brother? Okay. He says, you say in your letter that you were invited to preach the doctrine in a private hall dedicated to the Buddha, and that you conducted yourself fittingly. However, I consider it, this remark of yours strikes me as very peculiar. However I consider it, this remark of yours strikes me as very peculiar. The reason is this: you are not only a priest, but one who preaches the finest doctrine in the entire continent of Jambudvipa. Even if you were in the absence, even if you were in the presence of a bodhisattva who had attained near perfect enlightenment, you would have no reason to be concerned whether you conducted yourself fittingly or not. Yeah, in other words, appropriately, sophisticatedly enough, okay, in a manner commensurate with the environment, okay. What he's basically saying is here, you're a votary of the Lotus Sutra. All of these people are peasants compared to you as it relates to the perception and understanding of the correct teaching. And you should never be so like, they're all that in a bag of chips. That's what he's saying. He says the reason is this: you're not only a priest, he's saying, okay, which means you should have a certain level of comedy or understanding, but one who preaches the finest doctrine, preaches the Lotus Sutra, preaches the law of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, because again, that's what he's propagating here. Even if you were in the presence of a bodhisattva who had attained near perfect enlightenment, which is far greater than anybody that you're going to encounter in the royal court, or even any common priest from the Nimbutsu or the True Word or the Zen, okay? He says you would have no reason to be concerned whether you conducted yourself fittingly. He says your attitude is incorrect. You're not perceiving the nature that I told you possess. If you understood yourself to be the Buddha, as the teaching is that I've already expressed to you, you would not perceive these people as being anything other than common mortals that need awakening. Not like people better than you. You're already the Buddha. It doesn't get any better than you. Do you follow? Okay, so he says then, moreover, the gods Brahma and Shakra preside over the domain of the thus come one who is our Father, and have been entrusted with the care of priests like us who preach the correct teaching, or lay priests that preach the correct teaching. Vairashana, Vashravana, and the others who make up the four heavenly kings are simply the guardians and gatekeepers of these gods. Brahma and Shakra and the rulers of the four continents are mere retainers to Vairashvana and the other heavenly kings. He says, so basically he says, and the ruler of Akitsushima, this island of Japan, cannot compare even to the retainers of the wheel-turning kings of the four continents. So he just qualified, boom, boom. These guys all work for Brahma and Shakra. Brahma and Shakra still work for the wheel-turning kings, right? Four heavenly kings. They don't even compare. And then the emperor of Japan, he says, he's just, the ruler of Japan is simply the chief of this island country. This is 13th century, 12th century Japan. To say that kind of thing is a very
advanced.
Oh, very, very, yes. Very dangerous thing to say. He says, to speak as you do of being summoned by persons who serve the ruler, of appearing before those in high position, and of conducting yourself fittingly, is, however, I consider it in the end an insult to me, Nichiren.
Wow.
Understand that applies to all of us.
He's crazy.
Huh?
He's crazy.
Who, you talking about?
Nichiren.
Oh, Nichiren's not. What do you mean he's crazy?
At that time.
Oh my God! For all of this unsubstantiated again, 700 years later, in the Soka
how
building
dare
up a
you?
foundation since World
And
War
in
II.
the Japanese culture.
Here he's in the middle of the woods. This is written from, I think, Minobu, if I'm not mistaken. No, it's from Kamakura.
And in Japanese culture, even until today, to be weird or to speak differently is never a group thing. And he's weird, more than weird. If you look back at that time.
From that perspective, yes.
My God.
And after Senmibo gave up his faith, he died. And didn't die in a nice way, although it's never clarified. Oh, him and Heino Seiman, and I can name a few more, None of them had happy deaths. They had really, got their heads cut off, or fell off their horse and broke their neck, or, weird crap. Fitting to a slanderer of the Daishonin himself. Okay, so going back then to page 154. Everybody understands why I read that? Why did I read that?
Because what we are doing.
You should perceive yourself in the same fashion that the Daishonin just admonished Senmibo to perceive himself. You should not think of yourself as less than anyone. You're votaries of the Lotus Sutra. You're Buddhas. You're true Buddhas. You're Buddhas trying to awaken other people to understand and perceive the Buddha nature innate in their life. There is no greater person than you, according to the sutras. Shakyamuni says so very clearly, foremost among all living beings. It's right there in black and white. Okay, it is the teaching. If you don't believe the teaching, then you don't have faith. If you have faith in the teaching, then you, when you're told, given direction like this, you grasp it and then say, okay, this is correct thinking. I will, if I don't understand it, I'm going to figure it out. And you go to the Gohonzon until it becomes clear.
Yes.
Okay? Because the answer is never here. It's in front of the Gohonzon in here. This prepares you for that time. If you only do this without, you'll never understand it any more than theory. All right? So, going to page 154 of the Heart of the Lotus Sutra, Daisaku Ikeda, Eradicating Negative Causality. No, actually, we're all the way to a state of happiness as indestructible as a diamond. Correct? Do you want me to go back to Eradicating Negative Causality? Let me start there.
Okay.
President Toda once said, it was Nichiren Daishonin who established the law that enables ordinary people to break through the negative causality from the past that exists in their lives and return to beginningless time in the course of their day-to-day existence. Beginningless time meaning their Buddha nature, their original state. To put it another way, believing wholeheartedly in the Daishonin, believing in his teachings, believing in the object of devotion, and the practice that has been expressed by him in order to initiate this thing that releases or inactivates our Buddha nature. And chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is the method for transforming destiny for the better. Through following this method, the common mortal of beginningless time appears, and the negative causes and effects formed in the interim all disappear. That's based on the simultaneity of cause and effect. Everybody understands that part of the concept.
Yes.
All right? The common mortal of beginningless time appears. The Buddha that recognizes and realizes his original state. Okay? The Buddha that has been awakened to the teaching of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo by the original teacher. Okay? You understand? That's his law. That's why he's the Buddha that's got to come and talk about it. All right? Everybody else learn from him. He says, what a wonderful way of putting it. Herein lies the heart of the Lotus Sutra. These words express the wisdom of President Toda, who read the Lotus Sutra with his life and attained the realization that Buddha is life itself. By negative causality from the past and negative causes and effects formed in the interim, he refers to the countless causes and effects that bring people misfortune. However, just as the rising sun causes the stars to disappear from sight and brings on a fresh morning, through faith we can at once eradicate the countless negative causes and effects we have accumulated over countless eons in a moment. Because we enter the realm of birth and death in the realm of Buddha. Right? We're never born in that advance and change or the other one of the first six worlds. Just as we are, we ordinary people, we can return to the original life of the human being of beginningless time. The ninth consciousness, right?
Yes.
From whence the five components emerge, which is totally free of karmic impurity. Okay, because it's the ninth consciousness. That's what he's talking about. This is what he means by the appearance of the common mortal of beginningless time. Attaining Buddhahood does not entail the termination of the life of the ordinary person. One certainly does not become a being who is better than or superior to others. This is again what he was saying in the Gosho I just read.
Yes.
Right? Nichiren says, living beings like ourselves have dwelt in the sea of the suffering of birth and death since beginningless time, but they become votaries of the Lotus Sutra and realize that their bodies and minds, which have existed since the beginningless past, are inherently endowed with the eternally unchanging nature, awaken to their mystic reality with their mystic wisdom, and attain the Buddha's body, which is as indestructible as a diamond, then how then could they be different from that Buddha? Shakyamuni Buddha, the Lord of Teachings, who said, numberless major world system, dust particle kalpas ago, I am the only person who can rescue and protect others, refers to living beings like ourselves. This is such an important paragraph. Let me go through it one more time. I know you already understand it, but again, living beings like ourselves, like him. He says he's one of us,
Yes.
right? Not better, not different in any way. living being like ourselves, have dwelt in the sea of sufferings of birth and death since beginningless time. The realm of delusion, of perception of only the topsy-turvy, upside-down, incorrect 9 worlds, thinking that the 10th world is somewhere off in the future after we've perfected ourselves. Okay? But they become votaries of the Lotus Sutra. What does he mean by become votaries of the Lotus Sutra? They become votaries of the essential nature, not of the Lotus Sutra, the 28 chapters of the former and the middle day. The Lotus Sutra of the latter day, the true law, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. They become votaries of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. He's talking about like ourselves. I'm one too. I'm just the original teacher, so I teach the original correct teaching. And it's propagated amongst everybody from that point on until the entire continent of Jampu-vipa is Shakabuku. And everybody has their Buddha nature emerge. And Koso Rufu occurred. Widespread propagation occurs. You understand? We don't need to have Nichiren Daishonin reincarnate because the life of that Buddha, that original Buddha, is in the Gohonzon and is not separate from our original life. Okay? You follow?
Yes.
All right, so he's saying, but they become votaries of the Lotus Sutra because everybody eventually discovers their Buddha nature. Because why? They're being told by everybody that already has. Do you understand? It's a beautiful thing. There's no hell that's like, yeah. There's no hell like the hell of everything else I've ever heard hell is. Okay? So he says, and realize that their bodies and minds. Now, how do they realize their bodies and minds? Through the teaching, through embracing the object of devotion, and having their Buddha nature emerge. This doesn't come from reading. This comes from becoming the Buddha. Okay? And in that process, you observe the mind and find the 10th world there. Right? That's what we're talking about here. Which of existence is beginningless past. Since the beginningless past, that 10th world's been there. All right? And you're inherently endowed with the eternally unchanging nature. What's the eternally unchanging nature? Nam-myoho Renge-kyo.
Yes.
That you are inherently endowed with the 9th consciousness. You are the Buddha and have always been the Buddha. Get it?
Yes.
Awaken to their mystic reality, because that is a mystic reality if you hadn't figured that out yet. And you couldn't have figured it out on your own. You figured it out because you met the correct teacher, heard the correct teaching, and embraced the correct object of devotion. And practiced the correct practice. Okay? And attain the Buddha's body. Because what happens when we attain that state that I just spoke of? That's after.
I'm a Buddha.
I'm a Buddha. Okay, and what's the Buddha? Okay, I'm my original state. Parent, teacher, and sovereign. Okay, right? The 3 bodies. The Dharma body, the reward body, the manifest body. Okay, he's saying, okay, and those 3 bodies will never go away again once they become manifest in my life, right? Because I've now I'm past change and advance. Okay, 6 through 9. I'm now in 10. I'm born and I die always in the realm of Buddhahood. Okay? Okay? Which is as indestructible as a diamond. It can't be destroyed. That attainment cannot be taken away from you. All right? Yes. So he says, so then how could you be different from Shakyamuni? How could you be different from that Buddha? Yes. You couldn't be. You're the same as that Buddha. You are the same living beings like ourselves. You're the same original Buddha. Okay? You're original Buddha. You're a true Buddha. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right. And he says, I am the only person who can rescue and protect others. Yeah, because we're the ones that do it. Refers to us living beings. Okay? So, a state of happiness as indestructible as a diamond. Our bodies and minds that have existed since the beginningless past means life that exists just as it always has. What is life that exists just as it always has?
You have
Beginningless 9 worlds always containing beginningless 10th. Beginningless 10th world always containing beginningless 9. That's what that is. Okay? Means life that exists always has. This is what President Ikeda referred to as the common mortal of beginningless time. The 9 worlds of beginningless time. Perfection, 10th world. Right? Do you understand? All right? We can establish a state of eternal happiness as indestructible as a diamond. That is the true aspect of the Buddha in our lives. This mystery of attaining Buddhahood is the thus come one's secret and its transcendental powers. Yeah. Okay? That's his secret and his transcendental powers. He's able to manifest the 10th world from the 9. In short, the thus come one's secret and his transcendental powers indicates the attainment of Buddhahood by ordinary people. What is the attainment of Buddhahood? What is the attainment of Buddhahood? The realization that you're the Buddha.
Yes.
In short, the thus come one's secret and his transcendental powers indicates the attainment of Buddhahood by ordinary people. His secret and transcendental powers is the realization that he is the Buddha.
Right.
Okay? Nichiren Daishonin says that outside of the attainment of Buddhahood, outside of the realization of the innate state of the 10th world, there is no secret, there are no transcendental powers. Okay? Because you're all that in a bag of chips at that point.
If you go to Tibet and you tell them that, they will all think that you are.
That's why that's called
evil.
provisional Buddhism.
Right.
That's why those are provisional teachings. Okay? This is the true teaching. It's so obvious. Just the premise of it makes that so clear. The Buddha's secret and his transcendental powers do not in any way indicate supernatural or mystical abilities in the sense that these terms are commonly used. But believe me, they are transcendental powers. Okay? They do separate you from everybody that is not aware of them. Okay? The Buddha's secret, President Toda remarked, people speak of transcendental powers as the ability to perform such fantastic feats as flying on a cloud, like Aladdin or something. But the transcendental powers we speak of here are far greater because they give you the power to conform the environment to your will. That's you doing that. It's not some big hairy guy listening to you. No. That's you doing that. But the transcendental powers we speak of are far greater. The secret and transcendental powers of the Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, thus come one, lead all people to happiness. There's no greater power. Mm-hmm. We are concerned with the transcendental powers that enable ordinary people to become Buddhas. Nichiren declares that we should not attach importance to supernatural or special powers. Mm-hmm. For example, on reciting the Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra, he's talking about magic. Mm-hmm. On reciting of the Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra, he writes, but whether they are correct or incorrect in their views is to be judged solely on the basis of the doctrines they expound. It is not to be decided on the basis of whether or not they have keen capacity. What's keen capacity? Mm-hmm. Or can display supernatural powers. Yeah. What's he saying there? What does he mean? Yes. One of his teenager writings, also in Volume 2. Mm-hmm. Okay? I'll read it again. Nichiren declares that we should not attach importance on supernatural or special powers. For example, on reciting the Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra, he writes, but whether they are correct or incorrect in their views is to be judged solely on the basis of the doctrines they expound. It is not to be decided on the basis of whether or not they have keen capacity or can display supernatural powers. It is not correct doctrine. He says, whether or not they are correct or incorrect in their views is to be judged solely on the basis of the doctrines they expound, not on whether or not they have keen capacity or can display supernatural powers. What does he mean by that? Don't forget that people have been doing magic that's not really magic forever. Okay? They've been doing magic and saying that they're special and unique for thousands of years. And people during this period of time would use religiousness as a premise for doing tricks.
Till today.
Till today.
Yeah.
Till today. To get money.
Uh-huh.
To get alms, man. Dude, I can't do that. Shit, you must know some stuff I don't know. Here. Okay? So the Daishonin is clearly saying we don't give a shit about tricks. We don't give a shit about magic. We don't give a shit about smoke and mirrors. We only care about doctrine. Why? Because our doctrine beats your doctrine every day of the week, no matter what you say. Come on, give me some doctrine. I'm going to refute it. Do you understand? There's no debate I can't win. There's no debate I won't win. Because I'm predicated on the true teaching, and you're predicated on provisional teachings, and there's a hole in your teaching, every one of your teachings, provisionally. It's because the Lotus Sutra, the Buddha declares, I am now about to reveal the truth that I have never revealed before, and that this sutra surpasses all teachings from the past, the present, or the future. Shall preach, do preach, or will preach. Have preached, will preach, do preach, or will preach. Okay? So he's saying, the secret and transcendental powers of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo lead all people to happiness. We are concerned with transcendental powers that we are concerned with the transcendental powers that enable ordinary people to become Buddhas. Don't base it on keen capacity, whether they're slick, whether they're well-spoken, whether they're cool, whether they look successful and smart. Okay? That's keen capacity. All right? Outward appearances doesn't matter. That's also not the basis of doctrine, of correct or incorrect views. It's only doctrine. Only doctrine. You show us a hole in the doctrine of the Lotus Sutra, you got an argument. But there is no hole in the Lotus Sutra, in the doctrine of the Lotus Sutra. Okay? So that's all we base it on. He says, Shakyamuni too, when he was asked by King Ajatasattu about the difference between Buddhism and Brahmanism, said in the something something sutra that the Buddhist practitioner gains virtue by abstaining from such questionable practices as offering fire to the gods or interpreting the calls of birds and animals. Again, supernatural powers in the vein of magic people. Nothing is as full of mystery as human life. Nothing is as respectable. Ordinary people, just as they are, can become Buddhas. While remaining ordinary persons, we can establish a state of happiness and total satisfaction arising from the very depths of our lives, the state of life of a Buddha. Everybody understands that? While remaining ordinary persons, why does he say remaining ordinary persons? While remaining ordinary persons, we can have total satisfaction rising from the depths of our lives, the state of the life of a Buddha. Because we are always going to be ordinary people living in the 9 worlds. That's where we exist.
Yes.
Okay? The 10th world is a separate place we go to. That's why he's saying it's all-inclusive. Being an ordinary person, we can still be the Buddha, is what he's saying there.
Yeah.
There is no greater secret or transcendental power than to be able to be the Buddha as an ordinary person. The Buddha's secret and its transcendental powers means the ability to enable all people to enjoy a life of supreme happiness. In other words, it is the power to elevate the lives of all people, and this is precisely the great beneficial power of the Gohonzon. Nichiren Daishonin has expressed his own life as the Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, thus come one in the form of the Gohonzon. Okay? This is a declarative statement by Daisaku Ikeda. I completely agree with it. It is the predication of our lineage, our school, if you will. I say it again. Nichiren Daishonin expressed his own life as the Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, thus come one in the form of the Gohonzon. The thus come one secret in its transcendental powers is nothing other than the Gohonzon. Do you understand that? Do you understand what he's saying there?
Yes.
Do you understand that correctly? All right? The Gohonzon, not the Gohonzon that's outside of you. The Gohonzon that is you.
Yes.
Okay? Nichiren clearly says this object of devotion is based on the passage that reads the thus come one's secret and his transcendental powers from the orally transmitted teachings. Accordingly, from the standpoint of the implicit meaning, what's that? Accordingly, from the standpoint of the implicit meaning, the passage, you must listen carefully and hear the thus come one's secret and his transcendental powers, means listen carefully because the power of the Buddha and the power of the law of the Gohonzon will now be expounded. Ultimately, the lifespan chapter explains and praises the power of the Gohonzon. All right? So, what does he say there again? Accordingly, from the standpoint of the implicit meaning, what's implicit meaning? What's he talking about? Always understand this. There's an implicit meaning to the Lotus Sutra because it's used as a guidepost to express the teachings of Nichiren. But in the latter day of the law, that's all it is. Okay? So the implicit meaning is to be able to divine the truth that's actually black and white. Shakyamuni, Jiga Tokum, since I attained. But the Daishonin qualifies, no, it's all of us living beings.
Yes.
And Tentai did as well, and Dengyo did as well. Okay? And Nanye taught it to Tentai. And Nanye supposedly got it from Nego Jr. So none of these guys made this stuff up out of the clear blue sky, and it certainly didn't happen at the point in time of the Daishonin's life. All right? So he's basically saying there that the implicit meaning is the truth that exists in the depths of the correct teaching, of the perception of the correct teaching. In other words, it's not the surface, literal words. There are two different ways to read it, right? There's the implicit meaning. There's actually three, I believe. There's the literal meaning, there's another meaning that's just below that, and then there's the one that's in the depths. I think we've already read that. Okay, right? The one with the depths is the one that... Okay, so in other words, the first one would be the literal meaning. You're listening to Shakyamuni teach the Lotus, or preach the Lotus Sutra in the former before he died. The former day of the law begins at his death. Okay, so it's before the former day of the law, right? That would be the literal meaning. Then there's the understanding that was expressed by Tentai, Negers, all those guys that are saying, no, it's all living beings, right? Okay. Then there's the implicit meaning that we derive the Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, thus come one from the lifespan chapter, that the Daishonin qualifies as being there, that has been alluded to in the doctrinal foundation by Tentai and Dengyo, but never declared who it is. Nichiren never declares himself to be, I am the thus come one, the Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, thus come one. He just renames the title of that in the OTT, the Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, thus come one, and it says, this has to do with me, Nichiren. But he doesn't say, I am the thus come one, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Okay, he would never put himself in that position that suddenly he might be deified. He might not be viewed as we living beings like ourselves. He can never be anything other than living beings like ourselves. Which means when we go shit, he had to go through shit. Okay? He had to exist in the same fashion that we exist.
So if you really have a normal capacity and a normal mind or person, even you are in the other religion, this is a real... This got nothing to do with religion. It's just
this is really the truth. This is the truth of life. This is humanism.
Right,
this is humanism.
Right. Yes.
Not deification of other things. Okay, but do you understand? From the implicit meaning, the passage. So he's saying, okay, here's what the literal text says. You must listen carefully and hear the thus come one's secret and his transcendental powers. Okay, that's a translation from Kumarajiva of Shakyamuni, what Shakyamuni supposedly said in the Lotus Sutra, right? Mm-hmm. I say supposedly only because I wasn't there and neither was Kumarajiva. Okay? And the Sanskrit didn't get laid down for a minimum of 100 years, 300 years. I won't get into all that. But at any rate, he's saying the implicit meaning, in other words, the meaning that we perceive from the teachings of Nichiren in the context of the Lotus Sutra of the latter day of the law, which is this. Okay? You follow? All right? He's actually saying, listen carefully because the power of the Buddha and the power of the law of the Gohonzon will now be expounded. That's what that really means. Secret and transcendental powers. Okay? Of the thus come one. Okay? And ultimately he's saying that the lifespan chapter, the whole lifespan chapter when he's talking about this numberless nature, is all talking about the Gohonzon. Because it's talking about the aspect of life that's common to all things, which is what Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is. All right? So, same as a Gohonzan. Our daily practice of Gongyo and chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is a struggle to break the chains of destiny and suffering and return to the common mortal of beginningless time. And as a result of these efforts, the true path for attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime opens before us. Do you understand that? Mm-hmm. That's very, very profoundly correct. Do you understand? Yes. What was he saying there? Let's take it a sentence at a time. One more time. He says, our daily practice of Gongyo and chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. All right? That's a basic element of faith, correct? All right? Is a struggle. He qualifies it. It's a struggle. Let's face it, huh? Yeah. It's a struggle. It's harder than shit. No one would believe how hard it is to do and not mess up and not skip. No, really. That's part of the problem of the dogma of an organization that puts a hierarchical value on how much do you chant. Have you missed Gongyo? You know, guilting people out. All that is all bullshit. That doesn't encourage anybody. All that does is establish, I'm better than you are. I have greater faith than you do. It's a bunch of crap. You never hear Nichiren talk like that. Ever. Ever. And you don't hear President Ikeda make those value judgments either. Oh, he has greater faith than you. Oh, nothing pisses me off more than that. Okay?
Yeah.
So, all right. Where am I?
The first sentence.
Oh, yeah, okay. What? All right, yes, pardon me. All right, okay. It's a struggle to break the chains of destiny. The chains of destiny would be the karmic influences of the 9 worlds, okay? That all of the causes we made that have created the karma and influence that we experience in the 9 worlds as wants, desires, sufferings, whatever the hell it is, okay? Those things are the reason that we start chanting. We don't start chanting because we realized we were Buddhas. No. We attack all the things that we're promised we can attack, whether it be physical, spiritual, or material. Right? Mm-hmm. Everybody needs one of those 3 things. Everybody's got some level of want. Mm-hmm. All right? It's those earthly desires equal enlightenment, because those are the things that then, he says, he says it's through the struggle, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo to the Gohonzan, God, my ass is exposed again, okay? The struggle to break the chains of destiny, because we created this karma, and return to the Buddha, all right? Yeah. As a result of those efforts, as a result of those first 4 of the, or first stage 5 through stage 2 through stage 5 of the 6 stages of practice. Okay, hearing the name and the words of the truth, all the way to not past resemblance to enlightenment, whatever the 5th is. At any rate, he's saying as a result of these efforts, the true path for attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime opens before us. In other words, it's because of that process that we finally get to the point where we realize that we're the Buddha. Do you understand?
Yes.
Clear?
Yes.
Everybody's clear?
Yes.
We're going on to 10. Page 159. Isai sekin tenin gyu asu ra kai ikan shakamuni butsu shu shakashigu kagaya jafu anza odojo toko anokotara samyaku sambo dai ninzen nanchi ga jitsu jobutu irai muryo muhin yakusin man nokanayuta ko. English translation. In all the worlds, the heavenly and human beings and asuras all believe that the present Shakyamuni Buddha, after leaving the palace of the Shakya, seated himself in the place of enlightenment, not far from the city of Gaya, and there attained supreme perfect enlightenment. But good men, it has been immeasurable, boundless, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, millions of nayutas of kalpas since I, in fact, attained Buddhahood. In this passage, Shakyamuni proclaims that he, in fact, attained enlightenment in the remote past, numberless major world system dust particle kalpas ago. This constitutes the core revelation of the lifespan chapter of the lifespan of the Thus Come One chapter. Shakyamuni calls out to the countless multitudes at the ceremony in the air, saying essentially, everyone supposes that after abandoning my life at the palace and renouncing the world, and at the age of 19, I attained the supreme enlightenment for the first time at the age of 30 near the city of Gaia beneath the Bodhi tree. People thought the Shakyamuni had initially attained, because that's what he's been saying for the last 42 years.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
People thought that Shakyamuni had initially attained Buddhahood in his present existence. This view is called attaining enlightenment for the first time in his present life. People believed this because throughout the entire earlier sutras and in the Lotus Sutra's theoretical teaching, first 14 chapters, Shakyamuni consistently said so. 42 years is a long time to say something. Okay? Here in the lifespan chapter, however, he refutes this view, which he himself had propagated, and proclaims, it has been immeasurable, boundless, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, millions of nayutas of kalpas since I, in fact, attained Buddhahood. In other words, he reveals that he became a Buddha long ago in the inconceivably remote past. This is called his attainment of Buddhahood in the remote past. So he's qualified two different attainments, right? Yes. Attaining enlightenment for the first time in his present life and attaining the attainment of the Buddhahood in the remote past. Shakyamuni thus discards his provisional status as a Buddha who attained the way in his present lifetime and reveals his true identity as the Buddha who attained enlightenment in the remote past. This is called casting off the transient and revealing the true. Or Japanese term for this,
Casting off the transient.
Hoshaku Kimpon.
Do you know this one?
To those disciples listening to them.
发起显本，对啊，
Casting off the transient
对啊，发起显本啊，
reveal the truth.
Oh, yeah.
对啊，
Casting off, where was it? Casting off the transient. Hang on. Should have been a lot easier on the computer.
cast aside the transient. See, cast aside.
Yeah, casting off the transient and revealing. I was good. Yeah, that always freaks me out because I don't use these terms very often. I'm pulling it way. That's like a 30-year-old term here. Okay, yes, Hoshaku Kimpon. Casting off the transient and revealing the true. Each one of us experiences Hoshaku Kimpon.
There is no construction. Kanji, you don't have okay.
Now you understand, right? Okay. So, okay. All right. So when you cast off the transient, when you cast off the transient and reveal the true, what is that process?
The process.
Realizing you are Buddha.
Attainment of Buddhahood in your present form. You're casting off of delusion, a common mortal, 9 worlds, and now you're all that in a bag of chips, right?
Right.
Okay. You okay? You need me to go?
No.
Okay. All right. So let me read the definition of. Here's the dictionary definition. That's a good, important thing. Casting off the transient and revealing the true. The revealing of a Buddha's true status as a Buddha. So we, in the latter day of the law, all go through and actually establish Hoshaku Kimpon in our life. All right? The revealing of a Buddha's true status as a Buddha and the setting aside of the Buddha, that Buddha's provisional or transient identity. In the lifespan, 16th chapter of Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni declares in all the worlds, the heavenly and human beings and asuras all believe that the present Shakyamuni Buddha, after leaving the palace of the Shakyas, seated himself in the palace of meditation not far from the city of Gaia, and there attained supreme perfect enlightenment. But good men, it has been immeasurable, boundless, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, millions of nayutas of kalpas since I, in fact, attained Buddhahood. Through this statement, he discards his provisional identity as the Buddha who first attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree in India and reveals his original enlightenment, or the enlightenment he attained numberless major world system dust particle kalpas in the past. This concept has also been applied to Nichiren, who wrote in the opening of the eyes, on the 12th day of the 9th month of last year, 1271, between the hours of the rat and the ox, 11 p.m. to 3 a.m., this person named Nichiren was beheaded. Tasanakuchi is his Hoshaku Kimpan.
Yeah.
Okay? This person named Nichiren was beheaded. It is his soul that has come to this island of Sado in the second month of the following year, snowbound, is writing this to send to his close disciples. Nichikan, the 26th high chief priest of Daisaku Temple, who is known for his commentaries on Nichiren's writings, interpreted, one is the person in the law. He's the one that interpreted that. That didn't exist until him. Interpreted this passage on two levels. First, the phrase, this person named Nichiren was beheaded, corresponds to the passage from the Lotus Sutra that reads, ignorant people who will attack us with swords and staves. And his soul that has come to the island of Sado corresponds to the Lotus Sutra passage, again and again, we will be banished. This, Nichikan said, shows that Nichiren is the votary of the Lotus Sutra, who lives in the spirit expressed in the sutra, to care nothing for our bodies, our lives, but are anxious only for the unsurpassed way. That's the first way to read it. Secondly, Nichikan attributed a deeper significance to these passages, citing another passage from Nichiren's writing persecution by sword and staff that reads, all the Buddhas of the past, present, and future attain enlightenment during the hours of the ox and the tiger, and compares this with the above passage from the opening of the eyes, hours of the rat and the ox, indicates the time Nichiren as an ordinary person died, hence the phrase, this person named Nichiren was beheaded. Because the hour of the tiger is the time immediately following Nichiren's attempted execution, Nichikan interprets this to indicate the time Nichiren, as the Buddha, was born. Hence the phrase, it is his soul that has come to this island of Sado. In identifying Nichiren as the Buddha of the latter day of the law, Nichikan also referred to a passage from Nichiren's reply to Kyo that reads, I, Nichiren, have inscribed my life in Sumi ink, so believe in the Gohonzon with your whole heart. The Buddha's will is the Lotus Sutra, but the soul of Nichiren is nothing other than Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Do you understand what I just described to you, what I just qualified to you? Mm-hmm. Okay, so what is this? What did I just now discuss, and what did I just talk about and qualify? I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just trying to make sure you understand what was just conveyed and what I want to make sure you're clear on here. Mm-hmm. Do you have a clue? Come on. No. Okay. All right. What he's basically saying is that, again, there will be forever, and this is specifically significant to you as a Japanese person, all right? There's still a lot of confusion about what was Nichiren's real teaching. Is it Shakyamuni? Who is the Nam-myoho Renge-kyo thus come one? Okay? Still, right? Because until Tatsanakuchi, until the universe proved it to him, he was kind of like a little shy about making that declaration. Mm-hmm. But once that occurred, then he understood. Okay? I'm the Nam-myoho Renge-kyo thus come one. Okay? I'm perfectly capable of doing a Daigo Hanzan. Mm-hmm. I don't have to wait for Bodhisattva superior practices to come. I'm doing this. This is my thing. Okay? And so what he's basically qualifying here is that was never completely understood by his followers. Only Nikko understood that. Mm-hmm. The 5 senior priests didn't. They're still thinking Shakyamuni. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. So Nichikan, who is what? What number is Nichikan? Think about this now. Mm-hmm. Nichikan's 26th high priest.
Yes.
Right? That means 25 high priests before him didn't figure this out. Okay?
26 is a good number.
Yeah. It is. 26th high priest Nichikan is the one that was able to perceive the truth of the teaching. That Nichiren is the Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. That's what he's been saying but not saying because he really couldn't say it. He's too cool to come out and say it. He had to leave it for his disciples to perceive the truth. If the truth of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo exists, then his disciples will perceive the truth. They'll understand his true teaching. The people that are supposed to are the people that are his original disciples.
Yay.
Right. Us. President Ikeda. President Toda. Not those that are confused, that are not teaching the teaching that we have now had revealed in the 21st century. We're not in the 13th century anymore. This is the only perception that is completely in keeping with the present day. Okay? That's why we don't need priesthood anymore. We're perfectly capable of doing this on our own without the hierarchical structure of temple. Okay? We can do this as lay individuals. We're Buddhas. Priests are not greater than us. They're just another one of the 4 kinds of believers. It's a fact. It's a fact. That's the only thing. You know, they shave their heads. They beg for food, supposedly. Okay? They rely on the contributions of others.
Yes.
We're the ones who go out and work in the real world.
We are real people.
We're real people.
Yeah.
So do you understand? Do you understand now what I'm saying? Nichikan is the one that actually professed the understanding that we all embrace. So Nichirenism, if you go back far enough, this understanding doesn't exist yet. And there are those temples that go back preceding the 26 high priest tenure. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. That's why it didn't take off from the very beginning. Okay? It wasn't time yet. World War II hadn't happened yet. The emperor had not been moved sideways yet. The emperor was still God. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Was World War II, actually the Christians are the ones that liberated the world to be able to practice this Buddhism, because they're the ones that, they nuked the goddamn place. Okay? Who else would do that? Would a Buddhist nuke? No. It took Christians to nuke Japan and free Buddhism, to be honest with you. Is there any separation between... Ultimately, does Buddhism say there's a separation between the Christians and... No. They are also common mortals.
Right.
Like us.
We should nuke ISIS.
Don't need to. These things work themselves out.
Okay.
They always work themselves out. Evil is always overcome.
That's why we're here.
With faith, evil is always overcome. It doesn't have a chance. It really doesn't have a chance. Okay, so you understand now the significance of how that applies to your life. Not just a bunch of great words about other people or, Shakyamuni or Nichiren. If you look at Nichiren in that way, then you're missing the entire point of his teaching. He says, you're just as cool as I am, dude. That's his teaching. Okay. Where am I? Okay, I'll start at the top of page 160. I think that's where I'm at. Yeah, okay. People thought that Shakyamuni had initially attained Buddhahood in his present existence. This view is called attaining enlightenment for the first time in his present life. People believe this because throughout his earlier sutras and the Lotus Sutra's theoretical teaching, Shakyamuni consistently said so. Here in the Lifespan chapter, however, he refutes this view, which he himself had propounded, and proclaims it has been immeasurable, boundless, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, millions of nayutas of kalpas, since I in fact attained Buddhahood. In other words, he reveals that he became a Buddha long ago in the inconceivably remote past. This is called his attainment of Buddhahood in the remote past. Shakyamuni thus discards his provisional status as a Buddha, who attained the way in his present lifetime, and reveals his true identity as the Buddha who attained enlightenment in the remote past. This is casting off the transient and revealing the true. That's when I went to this. To those disciples listening to them, it must have seemed as though heaven and earth had been reversed. For the view he now expounded was as different from his earlier view as water is from fire. Nichiren Daishonin says regarding this revelation, but now all these passages have been exposed as gross falsehoods by this single pronouncement in the Lifespan chapter. Falsehoods means lies. Shakyamuni himself had propounded the view that he attained enlightenment for the first time only in this lifetime. If that was untrue, then the causes for attaining Buddhahood, he expounded while propagating that view, must also be true. Remember, in opening the eyes, he goes, if this and this is wiped out, then this is wiped out. If this is wiped out, then this is wiped out. If this is wiped out, this is wiped out. He's talking about the validity of all the previous teachings. He's saying if this is not true, if now we know this isn't true, then that means none of this could be true. None of this could be true. None of this could... He throws it all out. Yeah. One thing makes the whole thing crumble. He says, falsehood means lie. Shakyamuni had propounded the view that he had attained enlightenment for the first time only in this lifetime. If that wasn't true, then the causes for attaining Buddha, because remember all his provisional teachings, he says, I was a deer and I was somebody, let a lion eat me and all this other stuff, remember? He had all these weird stories in there about what he did to become a Buddha. Okay? That isn't what he did to become a Buddha. He chanted Nam Myoho Renge Kyo to become a Buddha. Got news for you. Like all other Buddhas. Okay? So while propounding this view that it must be untrue. This came as a great shock because it meant that the causes and effects for attaining Buddhahood that Shakyamuni had been preaching up to that time were false. Provisional teachings are false. They're expedient means. In the opening of the eyes, Nichiren says, when we come... Here it is. I like it. This is the part I was talking about. In the opening of the eyes, Nichiren says, when we come to the essential teaching of the Lotus Sutra, then the belief that Shakyamuni first obtained Buddhahood during his present lifetime is demolished, and the effects of the four teachings are likewise demolished. When the effects of the four teachings are demolished, the causes of the four teachings are likewise demolished. That the cause and effect of the 10 worlds as expounded in the earlier sutras and the theoretical teaching of the Lotus Sutra are wiped out. And the cause and effect of the 10 worlds in the essential teaching are revealed. Everybody understand?
Yeah, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo.
Very, very, very key. The four teachers simply put... am I out of time?
Yeah, it's 9 o'clock.
Almost.
Okay, let me go a little further. The four teachings, simply put, indicates the earlier sutras and the Lotus Sutra's theoretical teaching. In the pre-Lotus Sutra teachings, Shakyamuni explained that to become a Buddha, it was necessary to terminate the life of the 9 worlds, and that this served as the cause for attaining enlightenment. Extinguish it, right? Nirvana. Okay? And even in the Lotus Sutra's theoretical teaching, although it is revealed that Buddhahood exists within beings of the 9 worlds, the view of attaining Buddhahood taught in earlier sutras still had not substantially been rejected. This is because Shakyamuni himself was still preaching as a Buddha had first attained enlightenment in his present existence. That is, he was preaching from the viewpoint that to become a Buddha, one first had to eradicate the 9 worlds. Had to become a perfect 10th world God. That's what a Buddha is, 10th world only. Okay? But in lifespan, part of the essential teaching, he explains that he actually attained enlightenment in the remote past, and so refutes that the causes and effects pertaining to the enlightenment of Buddhahood as they were expounded in the earlier sutras and the theoretical teaching of the Lotus Sutra. You get it? Right? Okay. So, Buddhist scriptures explain that in previous existences, Shakyamuni had carried out virtuous practices as various figures, including the Boy Snow Mountains, King Shibi, and a deer king. I knew he was a deer somewhere. He fed himself to a hungry tigress that needed to feed her babies or something. Needless to say, each of these incarnations took place after the time in the remote past when he first attained Buddhahood. The revelation that Shakyamuni attained enlightenment in the remote past means that thereafter, when he practiced as a human, an animal, or as a being of any of the 9 worlds, he was taking on that appearance of a being of the 9 worlds, while in fact already possessing Buddhahood as his true identity. Does everybody understand what he just said there? He's saying, even though he was saying all this as expedient means, the truth is that he had always been the Buddha from numberless major world system dust particle kalpas ago. So whatever he utilized as an expedient means didn't change the fact that the 10th world already existed in him. Yeah. As he was appearing as a bodhisattva, he was still with the 10th world of Buddha. When he's a deer, he's still in the 10th world of Buddha. Is Buddha only for humans? No. Okay, so Buddha exists in all things.
Yeah.
All right? So, you understand now?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. This means that the life of the Buddha who attained enlightenment in the remote past is undeniably endowed with and can freely move through and employ the 9 worlds. The 9 worlds are expedient means ultimately. They just obscure the truth. We learn through them what the truth is. Okay? Because you can't perceive Buddhahood until you're Buddha, and you got to live in the 9 worlds to get there. To go from stage 1, 6 stages of practice, 2, 3, 4, 5, then get to 6. Okay? So, the world of Buddhahood exists perpetually. What's that mean? Always, perpetually. From Kuan Ganjo, from Kuan. Perpetually in life among the 9 worlds. And the 9 worlds exist perpetually in the life of Buddha. Okay? Right? This is the eternal 9 worlds and the eternal 10th world. Okay? I was talking a while ago. Attainment of Buddhahood in the remote past indicates the view of life expressed by the principle of the mutual possession of the 10 worlds. Ichinen Sanzen, right? This is what the cause and effect of the 10 worlds in the essential teaching in the above passage of Nichiren's writings indicates. Do you understand? Whenever we're talking about this, we're Buddha. Why are we Buddha? Because of the mutual possession of the 10 worlds. That's what allows us to, that's the explanation of why that's the truth.
Yeah.
All right? And why it's available to all people regardless of their status or capacity. With me? The cause and effect, which is the true cause and effect of attaining Buddhahood, the true cause, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, can be clarified only by refuting the view that Shakyamuni first attained enlightenment during his present lifetime and revealing his actual enlightenment in the remote past. Everybody understand? He's got to squash those expedient means because now I must reveal the truth. That's what he said, remember? Even though Shakyamuni talks about attaining Buddhahood in the earlier sutras and in the Lotus Sutra's theoretical teaching, since this discussion is based on the view that Shakyamuni first attained enlightenment during his present lifetime, it lacks a firm foundation. In other words, there's no example of anybody actually attaining Buddhahood. There's no person that attained Buddhahood the way the provisional teachings say you attain Buddhahood. In short, the Buddha who attained enlightenment in the remote past signifies life that exists eternally and is endowed with the 10 worlds. In spatial terms, this is life as vast as the universe. In temporal terms, it is life that is eternal. Can you explain the difference between spatial terms and temporal terms? Spatial is space, temporal is time. Okay? So he's saying, in short, the Buddha who attained enlightenment in the remote past signifies life that exists eternally and is endowed with the 10 worlds. In spatial terms, this is life as vast as the universe. Our own, right? Our life contains the whole universe, right? That's the whole concept. And the universe contains our life, right? In spatial terms, this is the life as vast as the universe. In temporal terms, it is a life that is eternal. This is, in fact, the ultimate nature of our own lives. Attainment of Buddhahood in the remote past indicates opening or gaining access to this boundless and immeasurable life, the cosmic and eternal life. Your original state. Okay? Oh, and what do you know? They're about ready to start talking about that. Beginningless time is the original moment of life, and that is true. Are we?
Yep.
Oh, I'm a little past. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody clear? There was no questions? Good.